Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello there and welcome to the program. It is a Monday. It is a cold Monday and it is the 19th of December. So this is the last week before Christmas and the ensuing Christmas, Hanukkah, they both start on the same this weekend, right? And then we get New Year's. And then we get an inauguration. And that's just what's going to happen. So, how you doing? I'm in a funk. I'm sorry. I will try to rise out of it as much as possible. People are starting to write articles, psychologists, about the impact on large swaths of the population since Trump's victory. And they're likening it to the kind of reactions that people have after a truly traumatic event. So, I mean, for all I know, I'm suffering from PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome. It feels a little like it. And I am thinking that if I didn't have to sort of immerse myself in the news of the day so that I could come here and do this program, I think I would still be immersing myself in the news of the day. It is a habit of most of my life. I mean, without a doubt, as much as 50 years. I mean, I'm a news addict. I read. And I always did not because I had a show I had to do. I did because I have a real curiosity for knowing what's going on in the world I'm living in. I like to feel somehow connected to whatever's happening. I mean, otherwise, I find ignorance isolating. Let's put it that way. And the more I take in, the more I feel like I am part of something well beyond myself. And I find that usually comforting, less and less so these days. Celine just told me something that I had not heard that is so unsettling, really. And that is that I saw a story about polar bears yesterday and how they're moving, farther and they're moving into cities in a lot. They're starting to see bears just sort of like going around looking desperately for food. They're feeding on what is left from whale carcasses that have been brought in by the fisher people, the fishermen. I don't know. It was upsetting, and there's this picture of these 3 little polar bear cubs, and I looked at them. I thought, oh man, guys, bad timing. You're one of the last. You're one of the last, and it ain't going to be an easy life for you, and you can thank us. Thank us. And I was thinking that. And I come in here, and Celine says, did you hear that polar bears are breeding with grizzlies? Now, why would they do that if they hadn't done that in the past? That's a question. Do they know they're doomed? Why would they? Now, almost, it is a survival. I mean, polar bears are not going to make it. But maybe this hybrid they're creating, which are called...
Roller bears.
What?
Roller bears.
Roller? Growler.
Grizzly polar.
Grizzly and growler bears. There are 9 that have been authenticated through not sight but DNA analysis, and they're huge. They can swim, but they're comfortable on land as are polar bears. But they're whatever. I don't know. So this is how they're going to survive. My question, though, is did they used to ever interbreed with grizzlies? Just, if the moment was right and there was a grizzly and there was a polar bear. And I mean, did they used to do it? Or do they know they're under some kind of stress that results in them mating with a different species? I don't get it.
Apparently their ice is melting.
Their ice is
So
melting,
they're being
right.
driven onto land more often instead of hunting on the ice, which is putting them in contact with grizzlies.
Oh, okay. All right. I don't know. That's just one. And we hear giraffes are good as gone, too. All of these magnificent animals. And there's this huge extinction event going on right now. And the guys who are going to be in power in our government say that our hands are clean. We got nothing to do with it. Wow. Okay, so you can see why I'm just generally down. I mean, it's just... Let's do an obit. That always helps. I want to note the passing of Dr. Heimlich, whose maneuver has saved untold numbers of lives. The estimate I saw was 50,000 minimum. I mean, but just, it's not unusual now to bump into somebody who's gotten saved in that manner, because we all now pretty much know how to do it, when before people didn't. So, Dr. Heimlich, well done. We have a call. Hello?
Hello, Lynn.
Yeah.
This is to do with animals. It's to do with karma. Did you happen to read where that Australian veterinarian,
Yes.
and he fell up a 100-foot ravine?
Is he Australian or Austrian? What was he?
Whatever. I didn't know what he can't remember.
Some son of a bitch who...
He got his end.
He-
I hope this will happen to Trump. He'll get
Well... For those of you who didn't see it, this guy was a big game hunter who just nothing floated his boat more than killing magnificent animals, just for the thrill. He fell to his death, huh? I hope an animal pushed him.
Maybe he did. That's all I got.
Okay, yeah. Thank
Okay,
you.
bye.
Well, and thanks for reminding me of the one bit of good news, right?
Yeah.
That son of a bitch is dead. Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah.
And, of course, I'm looking at a picture of the woman whose death created the biggest stir, typical of our age, because she is the least consequential person that died, probably, but gets all the attention, more than Heimlich, I might add. And that would be, of course, Zsa Zsa Gabor, who predated Paris Hilton and Kim Kardashian and all those, who figured out how to be famous despite the fact that she had absolutely no talent at all. But she did. The talent was sort of like Trump. The talent was self-marketing. The talent was she had a shtick, and she lived it, and the cameras were never far from her. And that's the way she liked it. So there you have it. Zsa Zsa hung on for 99 years, more than Ava, her sister, who looked almost exactly like her, but not quite, and her other sister, Magda, who didn't look like either of them. How many times was she married? 9? 9. Good God in heaven. Her famous quotes are, "Husbands are like fires. They go out when unattended." "I never hated a man enough to give him his diamonds back." And the most famous one, I believe, is, "I am a marvelous housekeeper. Every time I leave a man, I keep his house." And she also explained why she called everybody darling. Darling. She said, "I don't remember anybody's name." It's actually smart. That's smart. I got to start doing that. "Hi, darling." Yeah. She didn't remember people's names, but she could call everybody darling. Oh, my God. Here's another quote. When asked how many husbands she had, she said, "You mean apart from my own?" Well, rest in peace, Ms. Gabor. She invented herself. And did it without social media. Did it the old-fashioned way. God almighty. Okay, what else I got here? Oh, my God. I'm trying to do at least a third of the show without... Actually, when my mother said I was so depressing, she didn't want to talk to me yesterday. She said, "Take more of your pills." And I said, "Geez, Mom." And then I said, "They don't help with this kind of funk." And my son, ever the wit, piped up. The great... I won't even say it because it's too awful. Never mind. Why am I sharing this stuff? Stop it. So, I'm not alone in whatever this is I'm feeling. I know I'm not. And this sense of, fear. I genuinely have fear and anxiety. And all I want for Christmas is my country. I want my country back. Because it's in a perilous state. It really is in a perilous state. Paul Krugman today, who's in the same state I am, he's the one who told us last week he's trying to get, how if you're working with a gas stove, you got to just get it. You don't want it too high. He's trying to keep his emotions at a simmer. He doesn't want them boiling over all the time because he says he can't handle that. He doesn't want them going out. He wants to just keep it at a level where he feels he can still function, but that he does not forget the reality of what he is living in and hopefully through. He flat out says in his column today, and this goes out to anyone who thinks I've been overstating the threat we're facing. I got Krugman on my side, I'll tell you that. It's nice to know, too. He said this: it takes willful blindness not to see the parallels between the rise of fascism and our current political nightmare. Willful blindness. So when people like me and others mention this looks a lot like Germany in the 30s, fascism. Do you know the latest thing that these rallies he's having? He's going to keep on doing it as president. Again, unprecedented. Again, not normal. He is going to continue to whip up his folks at these huge events and rallies. Who did that? Name me another world leader who behaved in that same manner and did it as a way to consolidate power. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. And there's a card going around that people are sending out. It's a picture, it's a famous picture of a big crowd in Germany, Heil Hitlering. And if you look closely, there's one guy in the middle of this sea of raised hands who's not doing it. One guy. And people are sending out this, cropped shot of that crowd with that man circled in red with the phrase simply, be like him. Be brave enough to be like him. I look at that picture, I went real tight on the guy trying to see his face and wondering, what happened to you? What happened to you? Because that would be like a serious, the courage not to be part of that mob scene, yet in the midst of it and refusing to engage was an extraordinarily courageous act. To me, that guy in that picture is akin to the Chinese young man standing in front of the tank in Tiananmen Square. It is an act of individual courage in the face of deadly power. So, okay, Krugman flat out starts his column by saying anyone who doesn't see the parallels with fascism here is willfully blind. By the way, did you see the website for the Stormfront? I think it is. Is that the big fascist publication in this here country? Now that we have big fascist publications since Donald Trump. They are urging, quote, action against Jews for supposedly harassing the mother of Richard Spencer, the leader of the his word, alt-right. This is the guy who addressed the convention in D.C. Richard Spencer, the nice-looking man in a suit. And the Daily Stormer, which now, by the way, describes itself as, quote, the most trusted Republican news source. Anyway, there's people in a town in Montana where Spencer's mom lives. There must be all of 5 Jews there. I mean, first of all, there might be 5 Jews in all of Montana. But there, apparently, some of the Jews there, as well as, I'm sure, some other folks, have organized a group that's called Love Lives Here. It's obviously an organization that some people in the town felt would be a good idea to have, so that we let people know that even though Spencer's mom is here, we don't ascribe to any of these Spencerian hateful qualities, and in fact, we're organizing a group that will fight religious, racial, and ethnic intimidation across Montana. What do the fascists, the neo-fascists in this country, call this group? Love Lives Here. They call it a Jewish terrorist group. I'm trying to see. Let's see. They have called for. The Daily Stormer claim the Jewish residents of Whitefish, Montana, have been harassing Spencer's mother, which is not true. They just simply have created this alternative to the message of hate that he spreads. And so the Stormer posted the addresses of every Jew in Montana, the phone number of every Jew in Montana, and photos, when they could find them, of every Jew in Montana with the Star of David embossed onto their pictures. This is the United States of America since Donald Trump's victory. And the Daily Stormer, it was calling for its people to calling for a troll storm against this vicious, evil race. So that's happening. They say, are y'all ready for an old-fashioned troll storm? Because it's that time. Just make your opinions known. Tell them you're sickened by their Jew agenda. There you go. That's a good old US of A. You know, this Jewish newspaper, the Daily Forward, is like really been printing some interesting pieces. They had 2 in last week's paper about are Jews white? And they're interesting because historically, Jews are not considered white. They did, after being in this country long enough and assimilate, become white people. But in most countries, they're really not. They're in a category by themselves, which is simply Jews. They're not part of the Caucasian race. They're part of the Jew race. And these articles have pointed out that this kind of shift in racial classification can happen very quickly and that Jews should maybe get ready to be demoted from being counted as white. Fine. I never particularly like being counted as white. Who cares? But, certain things come with being classified as white. Privileges, as we know. But one of the articles is about all those classifications in South Africa and how a culture can very quickly decide to start putting people in their place. Krugman also makes quite clear, he says that the Republicans, politicians, and officials no longer seem to care about what we used to think, and that's just a few months ago, about what we used to think were essential American values. And he says, and let's be clear, I mean, this is a Republican story going on here. It is not a both sides do it story. This is the I tweeted something which this weekend, which I thought maybe some would find very much over the top, but I did not, and I did it after reading about this shameful events, the shameful events in North Carolina, in their state capital, where the people have elected a Democrat as governor, and so the Republican legislature and the Republican outgoing governor, but who still holds the office, literally passed a flurry of legislation which stripped the governor of most of his power. And this Republican governor, the loser, signed that into legislation. This is how Republicans play. And when I read it, I really felt fear again. Fear. Because this is not how Americans have played the game, at least in my lifetime. Not like this. That is not a peaceful transition of power. That is not. And so you have Republicans emboldened and flat out turning their backs on everything they supposedly believed, told us they believed forever. And, who are the greatest Russian haters? Yeah, Republicans. And now a majority of Republicans polled side with Putin over America's intelligence community? What the hell? How do you even process that information? If you were to wake up a dead Republican from just, the last 40, 50, 60 years and tell the Republican, your party now is made up of people who trust Vladimir Putin more than they trust America's CIA. What do you think of that? And their heads would explode. Their heads would explode. So my tweet said, I think, that Republicans are now dangerous, shameless, unprincipled, and I think the greatest danger to this country that we have. I now think the greatest danger to this nation is the Republican Party. Does that sound over the top to you? Because it sounds absolutely a proper reading of things to me. The greatest danger, a clear and present danger to the country. These rogue Republicans, shameless, unprincipled, dangerous, power-hungry, and willing to toss everything out for that power. Krugman ends his happy little column with this: if there is any hope of redemption, it will have to begin with a clear recognition of how bad things are. American democracy is very much on the edge. I read a lot. I've been reading a lot of things about how republics have gone down, how great countries have gone down. And there is nothing in the makeup of this country that somehow keeps us from a rosy destiny in perpetuity. Nothing. And I think actually just this last year has shown us how fragile our democratic institutions are. So I am not alone, and that gives me some comfort. Charles Blow, whose head did explode, I think, about 6 months ago, does say this: I fully understand that elevated outrage is hard to maintain. It is exhausting, but the alternative is surrender. The next 4 years could be epochal in the history of this country. I happen to believe that history will judge kindly those who continue to shout from the rooftops through their own weariness and against the corrosive drift of conformity. He's talking about that guy in that picture who didn't have his arm up. History will judge kindly those who continue to shout through their weariness and against the corrosive drift of conformity. This is not normal. So, I have a great idea for you. Although I think you won't find yourself with like-minded people if you buy into this, and there is a waiting list. But there is a really high-end development that's happening in Texas, about 70 miles north of Dallas. And what this is a resort-style compound with stores and golf courses and hotels and a chapel and everything you could want. Yeah, so let's not forget the rifle range. This is Texas after all. A lagoon. All this stuff. And the people who are developing it say this will be one of the premier country clubs in the United States. Here's what's different about it. In order to get into this thing, you have to buy a condominium, which is also part of the development. And here's the thing about the condos. They're all underground. They are bunkers. Bunkers for the rich. Bunkers that will range from 900 to 3,600 square feet, have 12-inch thick walls, the living space entirely underground. Only the patio will be above ground and open to the world. This is considered a place that the rich will have their second or third homes and where they can go if things get dicey. So these are condos for the rich for the upcoming apocalypse, I guess. The plans for this place call for power plants, waste and water management systems that would allow everybody in this fancy schmancy community to function totally off the grid. There will be underground communal gardens. There will be retail stores and restaurants. You'll never have to leave. The entry gate, on which construction has already begun, will boast the world's largest fountains. And crowned by a marble statue of Poseidon. This sounds like bad taste. I mean, it sounds like so many horrors of American culture, all wrapped into one. And developers envision a community of about 2,000 residents. 10% of the units will be reserved for teachers, law enforcement, and other civil servants. Because, if you have to live there the whole time, you need all these special, and they'll help those poor people, the civil servants. They'll get a break on their living. Inclusion in the community is by invitation only, and the waiting list already has 900 names on it. The waiting list. Yep. Where else would I have read about this but in the Wall Street Journal mansion section, my favorite, headlined, "Luxury for the Apocalypse." You can't make it up. You can't make it up. We are beyond parody. I mean, beyond parody. I don't care what Saturday Night Live's doing. We're beyond parody. They don't even have to write their stuff anymore. They just can, take it directly from the real world. The unreal, real world. Okay. So Roger's wondering if Trump could actually start a war before he becomes president. If anybody could, he could. He could do it. His tweet about China's unprecedented, he didn't spell it right, he spelled it like president. Unprecedented, what a twit. I don't know. And here's another, to me, thing that smacks of Hitler and fascism. And these guys don't even care. I mean, they don't care that things they're doing, make light bulbs go off in people's heads, people who know history, in their heads. They think, what? So Trump, as you know, has had Secret Service protection for a long, long time because because that's what we do for people who are running for president who have shown that they are potentially legitimate candidates. And he has all this Secret Service protection, which is costing us, the taxpayers, a mint. But guess what? Did you know he has his own private security, too? And he's keeping them. They're coming to the White House with him. No president has had that. No president. The Secret Service can't be very happy about it. So the Secret Service is doing what it does and always has. But they're bumping into Trump's people who are loyal to him and who he, as I said, taken with him. The head of his what's called an unprecedented private security force. Stop and think about this. What is this, the beginning of the brown shirts? I don't know. Unprecedented private security force led by Keith Schiller, who was a New York City cop and has been a bodyguard to Trump and now is head of his security. And everybody who has looked into this has said, what? Here's one, a former Secret Service agent says, man, it's playing with fire. Having a private security team when the Secret Service is also there increases the Secret Service's liability. It creates greater confusion and it creates greater risk. He said, you never want to commingle a police function with a private security function. So here's something that they say is going to likely happen. Trump is going to keep this private security, his private security, and he uses them. These are the guys that throw people out of his rallies. These are the guys, you don't even have to have said a word, but if you've got a black face, you're out. And a lot of people who have never done anything at his rallies have been removed by his private security because they're trying to remove people they assume are there to heckle and are not true supporters. And his private security team has been at each of these 7 rallies that he's held on his thank you tour, and they have removed protesters, sometimes roughly. That's not the Secret Service. That's his private folks. About a dozen protesters at a rally in Michigan on the 9th of December. Trump was shrugging off the interruptions until he became impatient and started his usual chant of, get him out! Get him out! Now, those are instructions not to the Secret Service. Those are instructions to his private security. And it immediately, Trump's director of security, Schiller, left the stage, waded into the crowd, and started taking people out. So when you see this guy, you think he's Secret Service. He is not Secret Service. We have a call. Hello? Hello?
It's getting more and more, John here.
Yeah.
Getting more and more difficult to wish you a good morning because I don't know if anything is truly good.
Well, there are still good things happening, but no, this is frightening.
We need to keep a perspective.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for God's sake, look at what's happened to the poor people of Aleppo. Which reminds me, I will call out a couple of other organizations, such as the Red Cross and Doctors Without Borders, that everyone who can should support.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, the acceleration of abnormal events that the media and other supposedly, guardian institutions are simply accepting and somehow treating as normal is accelerating. I mean, the situation in North Carolina, when has anything comparable occurred in modern political history?
I cannot think of anything. I'm not aware.
I mean, the closest example I could come up with of an abuse of that sort by the Democratic Party would be in Massachusetts, where the power to appoint an interim senator, had been taken away by the Democratic legislature from the Republican governor, and then it was re-granted to a Democratic governor.
Mm.
But when that happened, there were actual Democrats, there were liberals who called that out as hypocrisy and as abusive, and correctly so. And that pales in comparison to what happened in North Carolina.
What happened in North Carolina is breathtaking to me.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't see a lot of coverage of it. My understanding is that the Sunday shows, which I don't watch, never brought it up. Nobody said boo about it. So, I mean, if the Republicans in North Carolina see that they can get away with this, they can get away with
everything. Look at they essentially, like I said, they usurped the president's role to nominate a Supreme Court justice for 9 months. I mean, and it was an absolute travesty. And after the first few weeks, the media went silent, and they were allowed to make this bullshit claim about the so-called Biden rule, where if you go back and look, Joe Biden talked about President Bush delaying his nomination until after the election was decided, and then in late November, between the election and the inauguration, he said that Congress would decide on President Bush's nomination of a justice.
Mm-hmm.
In the hypothetical that happened, he wasn't talking about denying the man any nomination. Look at the Supreme Court case that put W in office. Vincent Bugliosi, who's scarcely a liberal, wrote an entire book about, I believe it was called Outrage.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Which was about how, first of all, George W. Bush and the Republicans had no standing to take that case to the Supreme Court. The so-called originalists simply made up, out of whole cloth, the idea that the differences in voting between counties somehow made the idea of recounting impossible.
Yeah, but
and they said it would not.
All right.
Precedent.
But that's water under the bridge. I mean,
They keep doing it.
Well, here's the thing.
And it goes further
Here's the thing.
And gets faster.
Here's the thing. The Republicans keep doing it. When was the year of the Watergate break-in? 70 what? I don't know.
71?
Maybe. They break in during a presidential election campaign. They break into the DNC and try to steal stuff from the files there. Let's just cut ahead to 2016.
Right.
When the DNC is broken into again, and this time the thieves make off with just gazillions worth of stuff. This time the break-in is an internet, cyber break-in. It's even more outrageous because it in fact is not done by a bunch of idiots, ex-plumbers from the CIA. It's done with the Russian government. This is an outrage. I mean, Watergate eventually took down a president. Here we know that the Russians stole stuff from the Democrats, and that media happily disseminated it, which was necessary for this whole thing to work, and it helped Trump win the election.
Look at what the FBI pulled.
Yeah.
Look at that. I mean, first of all, the fact that the investigation went on and on and on was absurd. Benghazi, the investigation into Benghazi, on and on and on and on, lasted far longer than any investigation into security breakdowns led to 9/11. Lasted far longer than the investigation into Iran-Contra, which, if we recall, it involved the Reagan administration violating the Boland Act, which had been passed by Congress, supplying the Contras.
Okay, but here
and trading arms for hostages to Iran.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this is the Republicans, and they don't pay for this stuff ever. And I don't know, but I thank you for your litany of horrors. Thank you.
Which we can do nothing about.
Well, it's all done. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Coming back, I'd like to continue with the litany of what's the horrors that we haven't experienced yet. So I'm going to go back to this private security detail, and the fact that Trump, as president, fully intends to continue these rallies of his, what did he call him? Nasty support. He even said you were vicious, you were this, you were that. He told them admiringly in one of these rallies. Here's the thing. Here's what he said at one of these last rallies. This is the last time I'll be speaking at a rally for maybe a while. You know, they're saying as president, he shouldn't be doing rallies, but I think we should, right? Yeah, cheers, cheers, cheers. We've done everything else the opposite. Well, no, this is the way you get an honest word out, because you can't give it to the media because they're so dishonest. So he's telling them, I'm going to do these even as president to get around the lying media. Now, here's the thing. This is the scary thing. Many of these rallies are funded with private money. There's a lot of money out there behind Trump. If a rally is funded with private funds, then the people paying for the rally have the right to decide who can attend their events. We found this out during the primaries when people were being thrown out of Trump rallies consistently, and people started saying, well, wait a minute, this is America. You can't be running for president and not allow anybody in. And it turns out, oh no, we were wrong. If it's a private event, if the Trump campaign paid for the venue, then they can decide who's invited in. It's a private rally. So, if Trump continues funding these rallies with private money, he will have this is from the ACLU. So here's from Lee Rowland, who is one of the senior attorneys at the ACLU. He says if Trump does these rallies, but they're funded privately, he would have the right to decide who can attend them, including which opinions or speech would be deemed acceptable by the attendees. Rowland told Politico that as long as Trump's campaign or an outside group organizes and sets the rules for a private event, and a politician, including the president, is an invited guest, then the host can decide whether and when to remove attendees. They would be trespassers if they were not welcomed by the person who had funded it and had invited the president to come. So if the rallies were funded or organized by the government, then then people could only be ejected by law enforcement, and only if they broke a law. But Trump, with his private rallies and his private security team, is going to be a whole different thing. So, just a heads up that you are about to see, we all are, a presidency unlike Well, we knew this, unlike any other. But I'm just trying to point out some of the things you're going to see that we have never seen in the United States. And that is a president continuing, not to go out and give speeches as president, no. Continuing to keep his supporters salivating and keyed up and denying entry to his appearances by anybody who is not his friend. It's really something. Thomas writes, Doug Hirth had a caller named Lee. Yeah, I knew Lee, who also joined him on air at times, who was a former Secret Service agent. Yeah, I remember him well. If you have any way to get in touch with him, it would be good to hear him on this. I don't know. I always thought Lee was sort of a renegade right-winger, so I don't know if I'd want to hear on him. For all I know, he's now working Trump's private security detail. That'd be my guess. Chuck writes, Lynn, I've always been fascinated by how quickly the hair of a new president turns gray. Well, this will be unprecedented, too, because his hair ain't going to turn gray. It happens to all of them. I've always assumed that there are stresses and pressures. Well, it didn't happen to Ronald Reagan. What is it that a president knows that causes this? Well, first of all, I mean, come on, Chuck. I mean, people's hair turns gray. I mean, my hair's turned gray, and I wasn't the president. But I'm of that age when men, ascend to the presidency, and they may come in with a pretty dark head of hair. But yeah, after 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, there's a lot of gray. It just coincides with that age and the aging process. But I think, yeah, they are privy to so many troubling things, and I think stress partially, I don't know if we know that, causes maybe graying. I have no idea. If Trump's hair doesn't turn ghost white in the first few years, we'll know he's not taking the presidency seriously. Well, I don't think that's his normal color. Why he would choose the color he has, I don't know. But no, that's not his hair. I'm a color, I don't think. Chris writes, a friend posted on Facebook for people to stop posting pictures and articles about kids and civilians getting killed in Aleppo. Said there is nothing we can do about it, so I guess we aren't supposed to raise awareness. Oh, and this person's an avid Trump supporter. We're not supposed to look at these people in Aleppo who we've turned our backs on? It's pretty hard to look, I'll tell you. Remember in '68, the whole world is watching, we chanted. The whole world is watching as the police were beating up protesters in Chicago. The whole world is watching. And I'm thinking, that's true now of almost everything. The whole world is watching Syria, and guess what the whole world does? It shrugs. It shrugs. Brooke writes, although I would tend to agree that Republicans in general present a clear and present danger to this country, I am conflicted. I was a Reagan Republican, and I didn't leave the party. The party left me. The Tea Party and now the Trump supporters are not Republicans. Well, Brooke, they took over your party. They are. I'm sorry. They've tainted the Republican is a tainted brand now, and I don't think there's any getting the stench off it. The Tea Party and now the Trump supporters are not Republicans. They may call themselves Republicans, and I guess you could argue that they have recreated the party in their own image, but true Republicans, to me, are not the clear and present danger. No, of course not, but true Republicans and people like you who couldn't be affiliated anymore with them, you're almost extinct. Yeah, there's some good Republicans, but the Republican Party, as it exists today, is, to me, the gravest danger to the nation. I stand by that. It's gone rogue. It is without principle or shame. Brooke writes, the people who hijack the party, they are dangerous. They are terrorists. And people like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity recruited them. Whatever. The party allowed it. The party went to bed with a lot of unsavory characters. The party actively courted racist. It was called the Southern Strategy. The party welcomed these people in. And the people took over. And rather than stand up to them, the establishment of the Republican Party has totally acquiesced. Show me the profiles in courage. I mean, we start really having to lower the bar to get to a profile in courage. Like, what, is Lindsey Graham courageous? Is John McCain courageous? They're actually saying, I think we need a bipartisan committee to look into. Is that what passes for courage now in Republicans? And you can count them on one hand. The Republican Party is a clear and present danger to this country. I'll stand on that and with it. Absolutely. Okay, that's my happy little hour today. And stay warm. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.